Hello, everybody. My name's Eddy Wax. I'm a journalist for Euractiv. Used to be at Politico. Now I'm at a much better publication, writing about Brussels and the Commission, the Parliament, the Council. An admission from the beginning, I'm no expert on digital policy, but didn't need to say that because you'll soon find that out. But we do have a big week in digital policy land this week, especially tomorrow. So I'll quickly, I don't want this to be a dry, slow, tour de table kind of discussion. I want it to be a conversation. I want it to be fun. Don't want people to be double screening or triple screening. And that's the aim, is to get people to be attentive and engaged in the conversation. So we're not going to have like introductory speeches or people going, into their long discourses. But we're just going to have a bit of a ping pong and talk about these topics that are quite technical and complicated, but hopefully we can illuminate them for normal people like me who are clueless about what the difference is between the Cyber Act and and all that kind of stuff. So I'll just quickly introduce the panelists, starting from my left, my far left. We've got Antoine and Mathieu Collin, visiting fellow at think tank Bruegel. And Antoine, you specialize in innovation, competition, and industrial economics. Thank you for joining us. Then next, we have Tzvetoslav Mitev, Director for Data Economy and Public Administration Policy at Digital Europe. Many of you, I'm sure, will know Despina Spanou, the Deputy Director General of DG CNECT, especially focused on cyber security. And then, of course, Giorgos, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, sorry, Ioannides, Giorgos Ioannides, Deputy Permanent Representative, so Ambassador at the Cypriot Permanent Representation, and you're going to have a lot of work on your hands with the upcoming Cypriot Presidency. Why don't we start off with you, Giorgos? This name of this panel is the vision, the digital vision that Cyprus will have. Could you tell us what that vision is? I mean, what do you hope to achieve in your limited 6 months helming the meetings of the Council, and what can you achieve?
Yeah, not much in 6 months.
So you think?
Yeah, well, we'll try our best. But, in general, our presidency is about contributing to the EU's strategic dimension at a time when the world, of course, everybody knows, is in turmoil. And, of course, the digital transition, one can say, is no longer a choice, but as I said for another topic at a different panel, it's a necessity. And digital transition goes hand in hand with competitiveness, sovereignty, and resilience. And as Cyprus, in general, our umbrella is that we aim to serve as honest brokers. Of course, everybody says that before they begin their presidency. You will be the judge of that at the end of our presidency. But we will be acting as facilitators of consensus, builders of trust, and guardians of balance in order to ensure that Europe's digital policies deliver results for our citizens and for our businesses. And for Cyprus, competitiveness, I think for most countries, if not all member states, competitiveness is not a stand-alone priority. It's a defining threat that runs through the whole of our agenda. And we can only remain competitive if our regulatory framework becomes more agile, becomes more coherent, more innovation-friendly. So the challenge today is different of how it was, a decade or some years ago. Global competitors innovate at unprecedented speed, while we, as European Union, Europe, faces fragmentation, complexity, and some might say high compliance burdens. So our vision, since you talked about our vision, I think is clear in that we need to support scale, reduce friction, and allow our companies to innovate and grow. So competitiveness means focusing on enablers. And when we talk about, digital, enablers are the networks, are the skills, the human resources, infrastructure, cloud, semiconductors. people here know more on this about this instead of myself. But so we want to promote an open, future-proof environment where our businesses have access to trusted data, high-performance connectivity, and interoperable solutions that allow them to expand across the single market. At the same time, competitiveness needs regulatory predictability. So our businesses need clarity. They need stability, and in order to invest. So when we go in our digital files, and there are going to be a lot, digital files that are coming to our presidency, from the Digital Networks Act, the Business Wallet, the Omnibus, of course, Cloud and the AI Development Act, etc., a lot of files. Despina knows much more about the files than myself, but when we talk about the files, we'll follow three principles, one might say. We follow the principle of proportionality, the principle of avoiding overlaps and inconsistencies, and we saw in previous cycles seeing, conflicting obligations in different areas, in different files, in different, horizontal and sectoral rules. We want to avoid that. And simplification, which is the name of the game today, to simplify for the SMEs and for the companies who are struggling with their administrative burden. So just to finish, Europe has a lot and exceptional talent, has great research capabilities, and we need to capitalize on our people, on the skills, on the talent of the European people, in order to make sure that we strengthen our capacity to innovate, compete, and lead. We need to lead, while at the same time, we remain connected to the outside world. So when we talk about our European, maybe we can say alternative, digital alternative model, we think that we need three things, and I'll finish with that: a predictable and investment-friendly regulatory environment. I said that and will repeat it in all sectors and areas. A simplified and reduced policy environment. And thirdly, a strategic use of public procurement. I stop at that.
You take us very nicely onto the omnibus, the digital omnibus. There's many omnibuses.
Yeah.
Good point. I don't think the microphones are really working. Oh, maybe they are. There's been many omnibuses. Apparently the collective noun for omnibus is a fleet of omnibuses. So just to let you know, that's the new lingo. An omni-fleet. Oh, it's getting even more complicated. But tomorrow a new bus will be finally arriving at the at the bus stop, the Berlaymont bus stop, and that's the digital omnibus. It's been highly anticipated. I'm sure you've been involved in the process internally. And would you, but one thing I wanted to ask you, Despina, is there's been a lot of worry already in the privacy world, people who are very worried about the use of personal data, which of course the GDPR, for example, and e-privacy directives were kind of designed to protect. People are now worried that these bits of EU law are going to be opened up in a way which will enable big tech companies, some of the companies that Digital Europe represents, for example, to harness this data for AI, to train AI. What do you say to people who are worried that tomorrow's announcement could spell, real problems for personal data privacy?
Thank you, Eddy. Good afternoon, Kalispera. So, thank you very much for this meeting. One thing is for sure, migration continues to attract more people because the room was absolutely full during the migration discussion. It's still very full, but so yes, tomorrow there is a bus that is arriving, which is about simplification. Simplification does not mean lowering your guard, be that in privacy or in security matters. Simplifying means clarifying those questions where companies struggle and where you need to find some solutions to actually implement the legislation better. So we would never lower the guard of a piece of legislation that became a global reference, like the GDPR, because that's your question. even though it's not in the remit of my Directorate General, but I work still for the European Commission, and I've dealt with privacy a lot in my career. And it is an emblematic area for the European Union where we became an example for the rest of the world. And I honestly would not see us lowering our guard. Simplifying means allowing businesses to operate in a smoother and easier way. We have made a calculation that by 2029, the omnibus we will be proposing tomorrow will save, I don't want to get this wrong because it's a great number, 5 billion in administrative costs for businesses. So it is more about that and red tape than anything else. And if you allow me, even though it was not in your question, I will also move a bit on what we're doing in the omnibus on the digital legislation side further than just privacy. Again, the idea is to foster an understanding on those pieces of legislation that are difficult. There's been a lot of discussion about the AI Act. The AI Act was a groundbreaking piece of legislation. How can you expect the world to be absolutely ready? That was not the idea. So instead of us making guidance after guidance and sort of principles papers, we decided to look at how we can accommodate certain requests and address certain pressure points on the implementation of the AI Act. This is the idea. I cannot reveal everything because...
Well, media reports suggest that there'll be a pause, right? There'll be a stop the clock. That's already been reported widely. I'm not asking you to necessarily confirm that, but that's the kind of thing that we're talking about.
Yes, I cannot confirm because the College of Commissioners meets tomorrow to confirm whatever needs to be confirmed. But they will, this will go hand in hand with other measures, whatever we propose to facilitate the application of the law, because you know that we now offer compliance as a service in the European Commission. The creation of the AI office was about that. So the idea is that you also create a system by which we can offer advice to the companies. And I hope one day to see that happening in cybersecurity as well, because we see certain challenges there. So
the cybersecurity office.
You said it. So now, I think it is very important also in the area of cybersecurity to offer simplification. This will not come only in the omnibus. And this is something that I'd like to make clear. We do not simplify only in the omnibus. We will simplify on every occasion we have. And also we simplify businesses' life. And I will come back to that. So coming back to the omnibus. We have also the repeal of the platform to business regulations because these are now largely redundant. So this is another thing that will be good for businesses. And then in the area of cybersecurity, we will try to manage this problem. You know that now there are many different pieces of legislation from GDPR to NIS, which is about cybersecurity, to DORA, to critical entities, etc., that require reporting incidents, security incidents. And we have a multiplication of the authorities that have to receive this reporting. So we will try to do this single reporting mechanism for cybersecurity incidents, and I think that will simplify the life of businesses largely. But as I said, it's not just about what will go in the omnibus. Tomorrow we're also adopting a very nice present for the Cypriot presidency, a nice legislative file that they will be able to move forward quite fast because it's a win-win. That's called the European Business Wallet.
Yes.
I think
we'll talk about that. We can talk about that a bit later on.
Yes. So that's also a big gift we're doing to the world tomorrow, and that the Cyprus presidency can help advance.
It's a wallet that's stuffed full of cash.
No, it's a wallet for businesses, for businesses' business, basically. I don't know how many of you use, if you live here, It's Me.
It's Me, yeah.
It's a bit like the It's Me for businesses, right?
Okay.
For authentication, it's to simplify, because in the future, this is how everything will be done. You won't have to go to a ministry or to a bank to get your papers certified or verified. You will have to do that through technical means and electronic means. So this wallet will make sure everything is done in a secure way. So it simplifies procedures for businesses, and it provides security for business transactions. So it's a beautiful file that can be carried through almost to the end by the Cypriot presidency with grace.
Almost to the end.
If you wish, we will help you to do that.
Can I interrupt you there, and can I bring in Antoine? I want to talk a bit more about this idea. Sorry, I'm really bad at using the microphone. Baked into all these omnibus proposals, of which there are many. There's one on the common agricultural policy, there's one on the chemicals legislation. I mean, you name it, there's probably an omnibus for it. And I heard there could be more omnibuses for cybersecurity coming in the future. I might press you on that later. But, this link between, competitiveness and simplification, do you go along with that? Do you subscribe to that? That it's a simple, chain between stripping back legislation, therefore competitiveness goes up. Is it as simple as that?
Well, but if you ask me, no, I don't think it's as simple as that. I mean, the big economic question that we have in competitiveness versus digital policy or versus simplification is there a trade-off or not between digital regulation or competitiveness or whatever other policy that we look at when we try to simplify. And if there is a trade-off, where is it exactly? So is it data protection versus competitiveness? Is it regulatory burden versus competitiveness? Is it digital sovereignty? So we need to look at it. And it actually it can be both ways. So if I think about it, this week we had two events that struck me. The first one is, I think, two companies called Birdie-Chat and iCut became the first companies to be interoperable with WhatsApp in the EU. This is thanks to the application of the Digital Market Act. So there, I see no trade-off. You have more regulation that brings you new business opportunities for EU businesses.
Yeah, more legislation. So you're saying that this is the opposite.
Depends.
When you have complexification, exactly. it creates competitiveness.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But it depends. So, for instance, this week also we had a cyber attack on many French doctors who were paralyzed because of an attack on their software that they were using. And there again, more cybersecurity rules mean more predictability. Then, if you look at all for instance, the cybersecurity rules that Despina mentioned, everyone who looks at those regulation thinks they can be a bit simplified because it's very difficult to apply. So I think it depends. You have to look carefully at each and every provision of each act and see if the legislation you want to add or the one you want to repeal, is there a trade-off or not always.
Do you think that with some of the legislation that I'm sure you're aware about, it's been leaked, it's been written about by my colleagues in Euractiv, some of the parts of this, which is it's a big vehicle with lots of different things in it. Not all of it is simplification, but are you cheered by, are you heartened, and do you look at this with optimism? What's probably going to be presented tomorrow by the Commission?
Well, I don't know exactly what will be presented tomorrow because it's a college tomorrow, and of course no one has seen any document about it. But so, for instance, if you came back to your thing, do we have a trade-off between data protection and privacy? Maybe there is, but then it's a political question where you want to set the bar between allowing businesses to use personal data and let's say, competitiveness or financial gain in companies. But then, if you look at the simple economics of digital platform or digital services, you have a winner-takes-all principle. This is because all the goods that you have in the digital economy, you can reproduce them freely. So you have some advantage to be the first one, and because of it, then you can also be detrimental to competitors, to innovation, and so on and so forth. So actually, if you look at simplification in the digital sphere, including for data, then you give more advantage to the big incumbents which are there, which are often US companies. So big ones and sometimes foreign ones. So again, for EU competitiveness, you may wonder if you are not giving an advantage to foreign companies than European ones. In any case, the deep root of the relatively bad performance of the EU digital companies, they are much more complicated than just having a bit more stringent rules on privacy. We are talking about access to skills, access to finance, technology, and so on and so forth.
You kind of touched on it, the idea that big companies could benefit from simplification maybe more than smaller ones. I mean, that makes me think about the United States of America. And a lot of these omnibuses, I wanted to ask you, Giorgos, what you think about this, because a lot of these omnibuses, and you as well, it's been it feels like they're being done in a transatlantic context where the White House is really looking at what the EU is doing, and the EU is trying to also signal to the US that we're doing, we in Europe are doing a lot of nice things for American businesses. Play nice, be nice to us. Let's, look at what we're doing. How much do you think that the Trump shadow will waver over the Cypriot presidency when it comes to digital policy? And are you worried about the expectation maybe from the White House on this?
Isn't that every day? Not only during the Cypriot presidency.
But it is the Cypriot presidency.
It's not worry. It's not worry. It's like we engage constructively with our partners, including the United States. And at the same time, our legislative decisions are taken by the Council and the Parliament, and based on, evidence, on detailed legal analysis, and not by any external pressure. So, in any case where we must be firm, we will be firm, like on privacy and fundamental rights and cybersecurity and trust. Where we must be firm, we will be firm. Where cooperation brings mutual benefits, like on standards, on research, AI safety, we will cooperate and we remain open to cooperation. So, yes, we fully recognize the geopolitical context. We know where we live. The strength of the Union is in its unity. And what we'll be doing is that building trust within the Union in order to get the best possible results for the member states, and as I said at the beginning, for our citizens and our businesses.
Okay. I want to bring in Tzvetoslav now. You're the only person who hasn't spoken yet. You've been waiting very patiently. Sorry. I need training as a politician to learn how to use a microphone. Tzvetoslav, you've been very active on the European Business Wallet, which was raised earlier on. This is not to do with simplification. Well, maybe it is. It's not strictly simplification. It's a new thing that the Commission is putting forward. And obviously we haven't seen the proposal yet, but you have very specific ideas about how it should work. How confident are you that those ideas will be answered, and what are you calling for as Digital Europe when it comes to the EBW?
Well, thank you. Well, Digital Europe is practically working on all the topics mentioned, but due to time limits, I will focus on the wallet. If there is time, I will react to the other topics. But specifically for the wallet, it's true that we don't have the exact text, but we do see it as directly related to simplification. We already have a position, official one from Digital Europe, supporting this initiative as an idea to build on the EADAS 2 regulation, the EUDI wallet, the original wallet that is supposed to be fully implemented by mid-next year. We do see this measure exactly as simplification. Why? Because it's going to really start up specific, or can, or have the potential to start up these specific high-value use cases for business interactions with the administration. And our idea or suggestion, recommendation already coming out from July in our position paper, still to be, of course, adapted to the actual text coming up tomorrow, is that we do have the wallet mandatory for administration purposes and for some high-value cases like public procurement, for example, taxation, etc.
But what is likely is that it will be voluntary, right? That it will be optional. Maybe it could be mandatory for countries to offer the wallet. Exactly. But it could be it will be voluntary whether companies take it up. That seems like the most likely thing, which is not what you want.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how the actual text will look like. But definitely we need to go further to make use of it, because the EUDI under EADAS 2 is not mandatory. Practically, it's not mandatory for citizens or business to use it. And we need to go next level with business wallet, because business is more aware. They know their high-value cases. Of course, administration should really use this business wallet. That's why we see a need for going a step further. But we'll see. Of course, there is a discussion coming up.
I want to talk a bit more. We've only got like 6 minutes left, but I wanted to ask you, Despina, a bit more about cyber, because that's your main topic at the moment, the main thing that you work on. And There's also something coming up, so tomorrow you talked about it, the single entry point. We didn't go into much detail, and I can't go into much detail, but from what I understand, it's about when there's a big cyber breach, when there's a big data breach somewhere in the EU, there needs to be a single way for for people who suffer that breach to report that to. So that will be kind of cleared up by the proposal tomorrow. But and you can correct me on all the things I just got wrong, but next year as well, in January, we're also expecting more kind of simplification work from the Commission on cyber, the Cybersecurity Act. What can you tell us about that? What can we expect?
Exactly. Simplification is not just only in the omnibus. It is in everything we'll try to do in cyber, because that also has a certain complication, and it has to become more dynamic. So, indeed, for tomorrow we're looking at an approach. I think it's been known because we have consulted widely on that, of sort of reporting once and reaching many different authorities. That's the idea, and that's what businesses have been calling for. And we should be able to achieve it. And then the Cybersecurity Act, the review of the Cybersecurity Act, will come sometime soon in the coming weeks. The date is to be confirmed. And it will bring simplification and enhancement in many areas, because you can call everything simplification. First of all, it will clarify the mandate of the European Cybersecurity Agency, ENISA, because ENISA has been working with a lot of tasks that came from legislation but that are not in its mandate. So that is clarification, which makes things simpler, also for the role of stakeholders. We will simplify the certification system of the EU, which has not really produced its original objectives. And that's very important because, as you know, we now have legislation in the EU, the Cyber Resilience Act, that will require every connected product that comes in the EU market to carry the CE mark, much like everything else. And that will require behind level of certification depending on the risk, on the level of risk. So this certification regulation becomes very relevant. Then we will address certain issues regarding the supply chain and provide us, because we have said that every critical entity in the EU needs to meet very high cybersecurity standards, but we have not gone down the supply chains to see how this is provided. And look at what happened at Brussels Airport, for instance. How do you deal with issues like that? And then there will be a fourth pillar, which will deal with the simplification, because the scope here is critical infrastructure, of certain requirements of the NIS directive, certain requirements that the companies find cumbersome, because different member states bring different types of requirements. So you said
that cyber is not just about simplification, but will there be an omnibus on cyber security as well?
I think the Cybersecurity Act will bring simplification in the Act. I cannot speak of.
I'm getting gesticulated at vigorously.
You should be hired by the Commission and the Secretary General to make the proposal. So.
Can I give one last word, 30 seconds, because these gentlemen have barely spoken at all. I want to give and I'm sorry, Tzvetoslav, but I'm going to give Antoine. Can you summarize a little bit about just the omnibus tomorrow, and why is this an important moment for digital policy? Why is this a key kind of inflection point? Could it go badly wrong? That's what I'm trying to suggest.
I mean, like 30 seconds. Yeah, 30 seconds can be. I don't think it can be badly wrong, because then you have democratic oversight. It will be proposed to the Commission, the Council, and the Parliament will look at it. But clearly, there is a change in the way that we address the trade-off that I mentioned before. So the objective is to find the right balance between giving some competitive edge, but this has to be, I think, thoroughly. Also, you want, actually, as the Cyprus Presidency said, you want regulatory stability, so that you need to create rules that you will not be obliged to change every 6 months, so that will stand the test of years. For this, it is very important. It can be also a very great asset to have credibility long-term for the EU. When you see that other jurisdictions, I'm thinking about the US that you mentioned, they are changing their rules on trade, on export of digital services, export of chips. I think it is important to ensure stability first.
Thank you so much, everyone. This was a really interesting panel. I know a lot more than I did when I started it 30 minutes ago. And thank you very much for listening. And thanks to the panelists.
Thank you, Eddy.
So thank you everyone for being here today. Stay tuned. Our next event, our Presidency edition, will be in February. Thank you to the permanent representation, to Commissioner Cadiz, and everyone that you participated. And also thank you, MEP Phidias Panayiotou, for being here as well.